So we worked with Chico Evangelical Free down on the bottom of the hill to try to figure out how to help Paradise Evangelical Free. Chico is a bigger church, and they have more resources, and Pastor Art was on staff at Chico. We started to try to set up an infrastructure to not only minister to the 25 families that were affected in Chico, but also the Paradise families. And Kat came in with Jacqueline and has really worked on that. I'll let her tell you guys about that. It's been amazing to see what God's doing through Chico. I will say this, that this whole situation still needs your prayers, because this is not like Hurricane Harvey, where people, even though their homes were damaged, they still have their homes. This is, the surrounding communities do not have any rentals, and they do not have a place for people to live, and so housing situation is incredibly stressed. The government cannot give a timeline to anyone on when they will be able to do anything, and there's just mass devastation. But it has been amazing to see God moving, and not only ministries being new ministries birthing out of the structure that was laid for the ministry through crisis response.
Fire was November 8th. I got there the 16th, and we did the first training, trauma care training, on the 18th. 47 people showed up to the first trauma care training. That's incredible. Birthed from that trauma care training, it just far exceeded any of our expectations of what trauma care could look like. They immediately, within the next few days, we had formed like 8 sub-teams. I think it's more like 10 now. 10 sub-teams where there's a resourcing team, there's a care team, there's a benevolence team, there is one of the things that we have really lacked whenever we go into a site is having an advocacy team, somebody to help the homeowners navigate this FEMA system and all of the red tape. It's horrible. We struggle with it in every response. As God would have it, by His grace, there were 3, but 2 of them super active, retired social workers in that trauma care training. And what they wanted to do was take on that advocacy piece. So we have this advocacy piece where these people are coming alongside of the homeowners who just don't know how to go through this and don't know what they're doing. It's beautiful. So we have all of these pieces put in place, and they're just doing it. They have the care teams that are ministering to the people of Paradise. And so this is Chico we're talking about. Chico folks are ministering to the emotional, spiritual, intellectual, and relational needs of the Paradise folks and of the Chico folks who were burnt out. Because 27 families in the Chico church also burned. So they were also very affected. And then from all of that, they also created this program called Crisis Care. Crisis Care, yeah. So it's Adopt a Family. So people within the church, Chico Church, and within the Chico Trauma Care team are adopting families that were burned out. And that is for emotional, spiritual, physical support, whatever it is, just coming alongside of those families. But now we're taking it a step further, and the Chico folks are going to go up the mountain to the Paradise Church. So Paradise Church is still standing. 70 of the, I thought 73, but 72, whatever, families were burned out. But the church still stands. So that church is a light in this community, and they're using it as a resource center. So you go in there, there's all kinds of food, there's all kinds of everything. But now some of the Chico folks that were trained in the trauma care are going to be sitting in the church building, because that church building is a rest stop. There's restrooms, and you know what? When there's no infrastructure in the whole city, restrooms are important, and people are coming in if for nothing else than to use the bathrooms, and then they have the opportunity to talk to people. So it's a beautiful thing. I think the most amazing thing about it is that they have grasped the idea that this isn't a physical response. It is a spiritual, emotional, relational response, and that is how they are going to reach the people. So it's just, it's what we want, right? You know, the physical response is our way in the door, but we aren't even meeting physical needs, really. We know personally of 22 people who have prayed to receive Christ since this fire. That's incredible. Not only is it incredible that they said the prayer, but they're plugged in because they did it with church members, you know? So they are plugged into a church. They are doing it. They are seeing it. Another church, west of town a little bit, I think, Oroville. We did 2 trainings there, trauma care. Now, they are also wanting to serve the Paradise community, but Oroville has absorbed many of the Chico and Paradise folks. So they're ministering in their own community as well. What's beautiful about the Oroville church is they get that this is a marathon. They're one of the only churches that has called up and said, we're going to be here for the long haul. We don't need to do anything right now except pray and prepare. And that's what they're doing right now, is praying and preparing for what it's going to look like in 6 months down the road. The last shelter was supposed to close January 31st. There was still 350 people in that shelter, and it was supposed to close on January 31st. It did get extended until March 15th, but there's still 350 people who don't have anywhere to go. There's 170 campers out in the parking lot of the fairgrounds at that last shelter. As you drive around Chico, there's camp impromptu campgrounds everywhere. There's just campers, like we see, you know, in all of our responses.